Greetings, everyone. Eric Brown, MOBO-Media, MOBO-Media. Hey, I thought I'd get on here and talk about a crazy story. You know, I have a few stories from time to time, but this ties right into, like I told y'all, I'm going to talk about health and wellness and even relationships with your providers and your doctors and the pharmacy. And I'm going to try to give all of the experiences and things I've been through in the Air Force and in civilian life. I want to give it back, but it has to be beneficial. So I want to talk about a story. I retired in 2009, and so 2010 made my way to Austin, me and my wife. First order of business was to find a doctor, because as a retiree, I'm afforded, healthcare benefits from the VA. Me and the spouse, pretty much free healthcare benefits. You pay just a small amount annually, but it's a free ride healthcare for the rest of your life. And so the first order of business was to find a doctor. Did my little research and looked at what VA, but you also got to look at what the Veterans Affairs will allow you to have, because they won't just pay for any doctor. They want to make sure they're not getting a doctor that's whack. Let me just put it to you like that. And so they have a list of docs that they'll give you, and they'll tell you yay or nay on the docs that you select. The doctor we selected was one that I felt that had a strong background. He was a former Navy colonel in the Navy, so he was a military doctor. He spoke the language. He understood the culture. And so I felt, wow, this is perfect. I found a doctor with a military background, and I did my due diligence, looked at him, and checked out pretty good. A lot of good reviews. He had a lot of returning patients. A lot of people swore by him. So what ended up happening? Me and my wife ended up having the same doc. We had the same doc, and that's not uncommon in the military. Sometimes you'll have a doctor. They'll assign a doctor for the whole family. So it's really not uncommon. And for us, we felt like, you know, it was easier, it was more convenient to have the one doc and kind of do business, because we were just coming out of the military. And so we were just grateful to have a military doctor, someone with a military background. So the doctor was great. He was a great doctor. He was what I consider old school doctors. He would sit you in front of you and he would talk to you. He would listen to you. And that's called person-centered care. Look it up. Person-centered care. That means the care you receive is based on you, not on what the doctor's trying to throw on you. But that involves them listening to you, sitting and listening to you, just like the old school doctors. Back in the day, they had doctors, just like in the military, for whole families, the old school doctors. Y'all remember that? The doctors knew everything about everybody in their families, from 6-year-old little Johnny to 85-year-old granddad. They knew everything about everybody. You could call them in the middle of the night, and they bring their black bag with medicines or whatever. And if they couldn't handle it, they get on the phone, they get an ambulance, and they get you to a place that could take care of you. And that's the kind of vibe we got from him. He was the type of person that was down to earth. We had a lot of, we talked military stories in the midst of our appointments and things like that. So just a great doctor, great attitude. And I noticed his wife also worked at the facility. His wife she was not a doctor, but at least she was a nurse practitioner. So what she did, she took care of a lot of the behind the scenes work. Anybody who worked in the doctor's office knows the doctor has to stay focused, so someone else has to take care of all the other stuff. So the nurse, she took care of all the other things within the clinic, to include overseeing the medical aids and things like that. The orders, medical orders, referrals, insurance, she kind of took care of all those things. Medications, pharmacy, she took care of all those things. Just a great person with a great attitude. And they complemented each other very well. So after a couple of years, I started noticing some changes in him. I don't know what it is, but the vibe between them was kind of a little off. It was a little off. And I can tell you that it was not something that you notice right off, but me having a mental health background and family advocacy and dealing with marital issues in a professional setting, I could tell you that something was definitely off. So fast forward, they ended up getting a divorce. We didn't find out till later why. It had something to do with other ladies. He had a little girlfriend on the side, but I thought it was something deeper than that, but something just seemed off. And they got a divorce. I will tell you, the clinic changed, the quality went down, waiting on referrals, mixed up insurance claims, all sorts of stuff. I mean, they did the best they could. He had a great staff, but the wife really, you could tell she was the one running things, and she was sorely missed. And she got divorced, and I noticed when they get divorced, this guy started being kind of almost in a celebratory bachelor type of mood, in a sense, which I thought was really odd. You know, it's and I get it if you're in a marriage that you shouldn't be in or don't want to be in, and you feel like you finally got freedom. But this was like, he was just acting like he had just gotten a get out of jail free card, or just wanted to try everything in the world. So, and he had this kind of, I don't know, I got this kind of freak vibe out of him, man. This freak vibe off of him, you know what I'm saying? Just the way he talked, and talked about, you know, he would talk about sex. You know, men talk about sex, you know, and it's not an unnormal thing. He's a doctor, so, but his conversation would kind of veer off into the weird kind of space. Fast forward, and I'm gonna get to the point. One day in probably 2000, and remember we had this doc since 2010. So about 2000 and, I want to say 2018, 2019. No, 2019. It was 2019 because I know it was right before COVID hit. Around October 2019. I happened to be sitting reading the newspaper, the local Austin newspaper. And I'm reading the paper, reading on the phone. You know, I'm not the old school paper version. I used to do that, but on the phone. I come across a story. And the headline says, doctor charged with possession of child pornography. It says, doctor charged with possession of child pornography. And I read the story, and guess whose name I saw in the article? It was our doctor. It was our doctor. Not only were they after him for child pornography, for possession of child pornography, they were also after him for, he was having inappropriate dealings with women that come into his clinic, which I was not unaware of, which I'm kind of not surprised of. I could see him making little sly comments, a little sexist remarks and things like that. I mean, I could see it in him now. But he was also investigated for improper prescription writing. He would write prescriptions for any damn thing. And that was one thing that was good about him. You know, if you go in and tell this guy what you wanted, he pretty much give it to you. And for me and my wife, we know what we need to take care of us just based on, you know, previous pains or previous issues. For example, I've had IBS, I had stomach issues in the past, which I found was just anxiety. And I know what works for me. And so I would often ask them to go and just give me that, because I know the military doctors before, when I was serving, that's what they gave me, and it worked well. So I looked a little deeper into this whole child pornography thing. I read the article, and just so happened, this guy had been under investigation for a couple of months. We did not know. And this is how it all started. So remember I told you after he got divorced, he started acting a little freaky, a little weird or whatever, right? So I guess he got a girlfriend, a couple of girlfriends or something. He had a girlfriend, and I don't know if his girlfriend and him got into it. I don't know what happened. But apparently she got into his cell phone. And in his cell phone, she saw images that made her cringe. Images that were not appropriate for a grown man to have on his phone. For anybody to have on their damn phone. And she took it to the police. And when she took it to the police, they told her to keep quiet about it. Don't say anything about it. They downloaded the images. And they started watching this guy. They started pulling data on him, criminal data. They started looking at where he lived, look at the children around the neighborhood. I mean, they did their due diligence before they let him know anything. And so when they finally felt they had enough, they had the guy. I don't know how they figured this out. One day he was on the way to the clinic, to the doctor's office, and the cops had been surveilling him. They had already had a plan to pull him over. They pulled him over before he gets to the clinic. And immediately they grabbed a black bag out of his car. If y'all know doctors have the black bags, like I mentioned before, the old school black bags the doctors used to carry. They immediately go to this bag and they retrieve the contents of the bag. Some of the things in the bags, obviously he had documents, medical documents in the bag. He had thumb drives in the bag. He had cell phones in the bag. Why he had extra cell phones, I'm not for sure, but they went and they looked and they did analysis on this stuff, and lo and behold, on the thumb drives, there were more child images on the thumb drive. Now, on the cell phone, you know, they had already had the images from his cell phone, so there was no need to go back into the phone, but they did go into the other phones he had into the bag and found more stuff. So then they got the investigation rolling, right? And so, long story short, what ended up happening, in my opinion, I think what this guy did, he tried to use the excuse that he was a doctor and that's why he had those images. He was trying to say he was using those images. That's what I'm thinking. He was trying to use those images. He was telling them for medical purposes, and that's bullshit. That's total bullshit. He was telling them they would use them for medical purposes. They didn't believe it. They went to the medical board. They tried to strip him of his license. The medical board looked at it. They actually suspended him. And the medical board, because of the allegations brought to them by the women, where he was having these inappropriate dealings with women, they actually stripped him of the rights to see female patients. And I didn't know they could do this. But the Texas Medical Board actually stripped him of the ability to see female patients, and he could only see male patients 18 and above. 18 and above. So you can imagine what that did to his clinic, his business model, his clinic and everything. And but who cares? Who gives a shit about that? So they did the investigation, and they ended up getting to the point where the medical board, you had the law enforcement, you had medical board. Law enforcement was doing their investigation, medical board doing their investigation. Medical board finally said they had enough, and I think they came to him and said they had enough. They said either we're going to strip you of your license or you give it up. And I think he ended up giving up his license for a fact. I know that for a fact, that he sent us a letter. Like we didn't know what the hell was going on. They stripped him of his license, said he could not practice in the state of Texas. I think then, I don't know what kind of deal he cut with the investigators. There may have been part of the deal he cut with the investigators. They did not be able to practice at all in the state of Texas. And so, you know, that hurt, obviously, but I don't think it hurt enough. But guess what the guy did? This is what he did. This is what's disgusting. This is why y'all need to be careful of the doctors y'all think are providing care to y'all out there, and they're out there doing freaky stuff. He can't practice in Texas. And so y'all know the war in Ukraine, but Ukraine and Russia was going on, right? And there was a lot of volunteers coming from the U.S. to go and fight with the Ukraine war. This guy sends a letter to us saying that he was trying to come across as being patriotic, saying he was going to help use his medical skills in the Ukraine war. So he was going to go over there and help fight the Ukraine war and use his medical skills. And he actually did that. He actually did that to each his own. But that let me know that there's always you know, holes, and there's always back doors that these folks can go through. You know, they said they can't practice in the state of Texas, but what about the other states? What about the other states? To me, it needs to be across the board. They need to strip this dude of everything. He should have went to jail. He should have went to jail. And I think the only reason he got off is because he used this thing about, that's probably for research purposes, why I have these children images and things like that. Again, bullshit. The first thing I did when I found out about this, I went to my wife and I said, has this guy ever done anything weird to you? Because I started to get concerned. And she said, no, he hasn't really. He never did what some of the other ladies mentioned, but he has made this a lot of comments. She did mention that, you know, but she knows how to handle it. She's a grown-ass woman. But, you know, long story short, be careful of the folks out there who have these white coats on thinking they're doctors and thinking they have all the answers. They're some of the worst people. They're some of the worst people out here to commit some of these horrible crimes. And if you didn't know, there are a lot of doctors with addictions. Yes, I said it, addictions. And I'm not talking about just addictions, the pills and things like that. I'm talking about intravenous, shooting dope. Whole bunch of doctors out there like that. If you didn't know, think about it. They have the greatest access to it. They can cook books and make it look like they're using medication. Doctors have access to this stuff. And guess what? Doctors are some of the most stressed out people. Nothing against the good doctors out there. The good doctors out there, y'all keep doing what y'all doing. This is not meant for y'all. If it ain't meant for y'all, keep it moving or keep watching. But this is for the scumbags out there who have ethical responsibilities to do no harm, and they're out there doing harm, especially to kids. And so, lesson learned for us, you know, I mean, there's no other way we could have found out this guy was a dirtbag. I should have saw the flags when his wife left and he started getting all this freaky stuff, and I should have saw the warning signs, but I just didn't. And sometimes you never do. You never do. Those scumbags, oftentimes they've done it for a long time and they're masters at it. So be careful out there with your young ones. Be careful about the folks that are putting their hands on you saying they're doing it in the interest of medical care. There are some trash ass doctors out there. With that, this is Eric Brown. I just thought I'd share that courageous story with you. We're good. We found out some good doctors. She's got a female doctor now. I've got a good male doctor. And like I said, he's a good doctor. He was a good doctor. He was just trash. He was trash. I don't give a damn how good he was. He was hurting kids, and I don't get down with that. Y'all take care. This is Eric Brown, MOBO-Media. I am out.